Hello everyone, I'm Carolyn from Tranquil Mentor and welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be making a DIY light bar for Call of Duty Perk bottles. We used Lightburn to make the design and our Diode Laser to cut out the pieces. Instead of wood, we used Hardboard that we got from Home Depot. And here we are in Lightburn. This is the software that we used to design the light bar. What I did was I went through and I made these 4 rectangles. Those are going to go on the bottom. They measure 12.75 wide by 4.06 inches high. And I just duplicated them and made 4 of them. And that's what I'm going to pile on the bottom of the light bar to give it some height and to give it some weight. And I'm just going through showing you the dimensions that those 4 are the same. And then here, this is going to be the area in between where the light pieces, where the LEDs go. And that's 12.75 by 1.78 each. I just did some subtraction on the width of my LEDs and then split the difference and just cut this in half. And then that way there'll be a little tray for that to go in. Here we have the top piece, and that is going to have a slot in it that's going to be 11.75 by 0.625. And then what I did was down the very left hand side of the screen you could see the radius tool, and I put a radius on that so that it was a little bit rounded and give it a little bit of extra oomph there. And there are, what didn't fit on here, there's 4 of the smaller pieces, and then there's 2 of the pieces that there'll be 4 of those total, and then underneath the one that has the slot in it, I made 2 of those so that I would just have some more dimension. And then what we'll do is we'll save this, and then we'll get ourselves out of Lightburn and go back into the laser, and I'll show you the laser cutting. I did have a little bit of a problem when I was bringing my document over from my PC to my laptop, and my speeds were really high and it kind of messed up there, but I just cut everything out anyway and figured I was just going to work with it, and I can hide it a little bit in some of the layers. But there's our hardboard and there's our pieces cut out, and then I just took some spray paint from Home Depot, some flat black, and I did end up running out and buying a little bit more matte spray paint from Dollar General because I thought I had more than I had. And this is a little splotchy. I'm just going to do a couple coats. And that's what I love about the hardboard instead of wood for things like this, because it's nice and flat and you won't get any warping, and it has some weight to it. So you can, weight down your object or whatever you're making. And then I just made sure that I got the edges done, and then I went back and I did spray paint some of the backs of these too. So now is our assembly part, and then you can see kind of the waffling on the back of the hardboard. And what I'm doing here is I'm just taking my Gorilla Glue, and I'm going to glue these together. Now I have these turned a different way because I want the bottom to be black. So, and actually I misspoke before. I didn't spray paint the rough sides of here. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to glue those together so that the bottom is black. It probably really doesn't matter, but I turned this inside out, and I'll show you what I mean. I just put all my glue on, and then I'm going to put this piece on. So when you look at the back of this, which will be the bottom, it will be black as well. It'll be spray painted. And then I'm just going to press those 2 together. And it takes some time for the Gorilla Glue to dry, so I had to be patient with this and glue a couple pieces together, and then I had to leave it for a little while. And I did leave some of them almost overnight just because I just wanted them to settle, but I probably could have waited about 3 or 4 hours and I would have been able to work with everything. But I just left enough time so things didn't fall apart on me. And then we've got that all set, sandwiched together and dried. And it looks good. And then for our next part, we're going to place these pieces, and that'll start to develop our little tray where our LED lights are going to go. And then I did do 4 of those so that I had some height with the lights. So I'm just turning them over, and then I'm going to put my glue on the waffle side there. And then we'll put more glue on the other side, and that's how much glue I'm using. I really want this to stay together and to last a long time. So I'm gonna put that's how much I put on the other part too. We're just lining these up, and then I'm just taking my fingers and going around the edges just to make sure that everything is lined up. You have the Gorilla Glue is very forgiving. You can move stuff around, and that's what I love about it. You can move everything around and you can keep lining everything up. It's not that instant dry that you would get from CA glue. You do have time. But then again, on the other hand, you do have to wait. So patience is virtue with this. And then here's our second layer of the smaller pieces. And we're going to just make sure everything is lined up again. And I'm taking my time with these because I don't want to glue the wrong side. So I'm taking note and just taking a look at everything before I act. And then I'll just put my glue on there again, and then we'll glue that piece up. And then there's some drying time in between that as well. And we'll put our guy on there. And then you start to see too that we have this little groove, and it's a nice little space for the LED lights. And then again, I'm just lining up to my heart's content till everything's just perfect. And then we have everything dry. I waited a long time, and these lights are from Temu, and they were the only ones that I could find that were about 12 inches. And what they do, I just didn't want to make the set and buy all the pieces and try to get them to work. But these are for underneath your sewing machine, and they light up your sewing machine. And it has the little USB, and it's got the light switch. So I thought it would be perfect. And then that way, you know, with the light bar, you could turn it on and off, and you can hook up the USB to other ones. And then now I'm just holding this in, and you can see I've got everything where I want it. And I did want the tail end of those lights to have some support. I didn't want them to just be hanging out the edge. And then this way we'll have a little bit of time where what we make here lasts. And if we want to make it in something else and make it in wood eventually, we can do that too. So I'm undoing the sticky part here, pulling the sticky part off so that I can adhere it. And just taking my time. They do want to twist a little bit on you, so you have to just slowly pull that adhesive off. And then they're sticky on the bottom, so they're going to go where you put them. And everything looks good. We're just going to get that lined up. We're pulling the pieces off a little at a time. Instead of taking the whole thing off and then trying to get them in, I just did it this way. I thought it would be easier for me to have a little bit more control over where they were going. And especially being Temu, you know, they're bendy and they were put in the package a certain way, and they work, but they're just a little twisted. Okay, and then as we get to the end, right now we'll push that adhesive down. Make sure everything that is in place. And I think that looks good. And I do, towards the end, adhere a little bit more with some of that nano tape that Temu sells. And I load that up at the very end. And then I'm just showing you that the lights work. And I tested them before. And then I've got my top piece here. And I'm going to put 2 of those on. So we'll get that lined up. And then, you know, you'll see the light is going to have space. The little wire to the light will have space. So that will be a good thing. And then they look really nice lit up. That's perfect. And, you know, you just have to keep testing them. And here I'll tell you this, I go back later and I Gorilla Glue these. This was not a good idea. Hot glue is not good for this. My thought process behind this is that when the lights went out and I had to replace them, I bought a couple a couple extra sets. If I had to replace them, I could easily pop those top pieces off. Well, they just kept popping off. It wasn't a good thing. So, it's just not going to work. So I don't have that on the video, but I do go back and adhere that with the Gorilla Glue so that it stays nice. And at the end, if you see, I have enough room. I think I should be able to get another LED set in there if I had to. I have enough room to do that. I might have to pull them through a little bit. But here I'm just, again, taking my time, lining up. But you see the gaps in there towards the top. I don't like that. And I didn't care for it that way. So eventually you'll see that it's much more tighter when you see the final product or project. And then I have my oil-based Sharpie. It's black. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go over my edges because I want them to look black like they're laser cut. And then I'm just going to go through with this black marker and marker everything up. And instead of using paint, it's just a lot faster, and the oil-based marker really looks good and makes that edge look nice and crisp. And sometimes what you have to do too, it'll get a little flat and you have to just be careful with it. But it's a really good marker. All right, so I've finished that up. And then you see, it gives it a great finished look. Good. I need to do a little more on that side. And I work with it and tweak it as I go along too. And it looks like we need a little bit more down over here, and I don't think that really covered very well. And that's where I turned that over. So if you're making one and you don't want to turn the bottom piece over, maybe just don't bother, or paint the bottom piece too. I don't know. That it just whatever you think when you do this project. I just really do like the way that it came out. There's just a lot of things that I learned as I was going along, and I really think of this as a prototype, so to speak, because I've never made one before, and I didn't know if the design was really going to work or if it was going to illuminate the bottles. Just didn't know. And here you have it. It does illuminate the bottles, and I'm so excited about the way that it came out. And you can see I'm showing you in the track there of how the lights look, and they just really light up those bottles and they make them look like soda. And I have a video on this of how I made the Perk bottles. They have Germex in them, and I know there's another name for it, but that's the brand name that I could think of right now. But it's alcohol based, and these bottles have been made for a while, so they've stayed with the bubbles in them. And that was the only thing I could think of that was affordable enough to put that in there. But here's how the edge looks, and I lined it up as well as I could. It looks nice and dark. And then at that edge that's going in there, that is Temu tape. You could even cut a small piece of acrylic if you have a CO2 laser or something. And also, one of those pieces could be cut with a CO2 laser, and possibly even on a 45-degree angle, which would really refract the light even more. I have access to a CO2 laser at a makerspace that I go to, but I just didn't get there to, make these changes, or make these additions, I should say. But I'm absolutely thrilled about the way that this came out, and it is just perfect, and it's absolutely what we wanted. If you make a DIY LED light bar, share the inspiration and tag us on Instagram at instagram.com/tranquil_mentor, or visit us on Facebook at Tranquil Mentor. If you're already one of our subscribers, welcome back, and thanks for watching our video today. And if you're not a subscriber, welcome to our channel. And if you would be so kind to subscribe and like our video, it helps YouTube notice us a little more, and it supports our channel and helps us to grow. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.